Hello, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream. On today's show, just how bad do things have to be for someone to set themselves on fire? We find out why women in Iraqi Kurdistan are self-immolating. Omar Badai is digital producer again today, filling in for Malika Bilal, who's out this week. Omar, we were tweeting about this subject. It's even hard to work out how to tweet about it. What is our online audience saying?
It really is a very difficult subject, and you can see that from the comments coming in. People are trying to wonder why this kind of phenomena actually happens and what could be done about it. Just to give you a sense of the significance of the conversation, if you take a look at my screen, Drust says, Adil Hawrami, a famous Kurdish singer, got his big break after writing a song for his sister who burned herself to death in 1999. She goes on to say this song proved that not only was self-immolation an issue, but that people could relate directly to it and wanted to talk about it. Of course, for those of you online, you can join the conversation by tweeting in using the hashtag AJStream.
You can see here, sitting on the set between Omar and myself, Dr. Peri Kaladari, and Dr. Peri is the Executive Director of Kurdish Human Rights Watch. Peri, it's so great to have you here on the program.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this very important subject.
We will hear a lot more from you in just a moment. So, if you want to comment on today's show, there are so many ways to keep in touch with us, including Twitter and Instagram and, of course, Facebook. That's where I am right now. You can like us and see the stories that we're following. And remember that this is your show, so you can send us suggestions to actually help us with our programs and comment on the programs and actually maybe even inspire a program. So all you need to do is go to facebook.com/AJStream. And in the meantime, here are some of the hashtags our community is following. Suicide by fire. Can you imagine a situation where you feel this is the only way to express yourself? Have a look at this.
ئەمزانی دەیت ڕزگارم کەیت لە ئاگری سووتاندن. بەڵام گیانەکەم تەواو. ئیتر من نەمدەویست بژیم. نەشم ئەویست تۆ لەگەڵ من بمری.
Today, we're talking about women who commit suicide by self-immolation in the Kurdish region of northern Iraq. From the capital to rural areas, doctors see women almost every day who die from this act. And for the few who survive, they're afraid to admit what they've done out of shame. And because of its very taboo nature, very few people are talking about it. So why are these women setting themselves on fire, and how can their voices be heard without going to such extremes? To help us explore this, we're joined on Skype by Ruwaida Mustafa Rabah. She is a Kurdish feminist, an activist and a blogger. In a Google Plus Hangout, we have Tara Fatehi, and she's a Kurdish researcher. Kawa Morad is in Suleimani and does research for the Center for Kurdish Studies for the University of Exeter. Kauya Almayer is a student at the American University of Iraq in Suleimani, and growing up in a small town, she knows many women who have died from self-immolation. It is great to have all of you on the program. I'm going to start with a question that not only we've been asking ourselves on the stream, but many of our online community have as well, and it just was encapsulated in a video comment. Omar?
Indeed, it is the question on everybody's mind. Take a listen. It's from Edith.
Reasons aside, I'd like to ask, why do women commit suicide by burning themselves? Many households in the KRG have guns that women could have access to. In other countries, women take pills in order to commit suicide, which might be less painful. Do you think that the use of fire is a matter of practicality, or do you think that there's some deeper meaning to it, given the symbolic importance of fire in Kurdish culture? Thank you.
Tara, can you take a stab at this question and try to answer it for us?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a very important question. And I think from my research, in my opinion, the reason why women use fire as a form of suicide is because it is the most, I don't know what kind of word to use, but it is the most dramatic way committing suicide, and I think these women are trying to make a statement with the act of suicide that they do commit, and I think that just goes to show the background that they come from and the reasons behind their suicide.
Dr. Perry, what do you think that statement is? You've been going backwards and forwards to northern Iraq for 20 years now. What is that message you're leaving if you end your life by setting yourself on fire?
Well, as Tara said, it's a statement in itself. In the Kurdish culture, there is a saying that women usually use. I was born in Kurdistan, and I lived there until I was a teenager. So I know the culture, and I know that most of the time these women have no other resource or any other window of opportunity, and they feel that nobody understands them. By making a statement that they are, for instance, against a forced marriage, an arranged marriage, or a husband who mistreats her and abuses her, there is a domestic violence issue, it seems that this is becoming, I hate to use this word, but it's becoming fashionable. And there are, of course, psychological ramifications, and there are also social issues. And it goes on in a wide range. I mean, you have educated women who commit suicide by setting themselves on fire, and there are the rural areas of uneducated women who commit the same act.
Let me just bring Ruwaida into the conversation, because you're actually in northern Iraq right now. The idea that this would be a fashion, can you explain that?
I think that's the wrong word to use. It's not fashionable at all. I mean, to say it's a fashion or a trend, you'd be grossly wrong. I think one of the reasons, and I will give an example instead of generalizing, and I already have an issue with the what was said initially, that doctors in Kurdistan are saying every day there is one or two women who have tried to kill themselves. We don't actually know that. Here's the problem. We do not have statistics that are credible. What we have is words from journalists and some doctors. We don't have a field of research on it. 1, 2, I volunteered at a local orphanage. One of the children there, she currently suffers from attention-seeking disorder and other illnesses. She witnessed her own mother commit suicide. So her own mother tried to self-immolate, and she eventually died. And her children were sent to an orphanage. Here's the reason why she committed suicide. It was because her husband was mistreating her, but her husband didn't go to prison for doing that to her, for mistreating her. So one of the problems we have right now is whenever a husband mistreats his wife, or whenever a parent restricts their child from doing something, she commits self-immolation, there isn't consequences for them. The government doesn't say, wait a minute, who is responsible for letting this young woman or this young girl or this woman lead to killing herself?
Right.
I think that's one of the main problems. If that could be addressed by any of the speakers today, that would be good.
I want to bring Kawa into this conversation. Kawa, because with you being situated in northern Iraq right now, you didn't grow up there, but I'm going to ask you to do something that's quite unusual, which is just to see how women live their lives in northern Iraq. As a guy, how do you live your life, and then how do women live their lives that's so different that maybe it's kind of pushing them over the edge, perhaps?
Well, what I will say at the moment is, from what I see in the bazaar or in the public sphere, actually, and I would say social life here is a bit conservative from where I came from. I'm not saying I came from a liberal area or anything, but I'm saying there's a sort of conservatism.
And do you want to explain what that means? Because that means something to somebody in different parts of the world. What do you mean by conservative?
By that I mean there are not many public spaces for women. I mean, like you go to the bazaar or to the market in any of the Kurdish main cities here in Iraqi Kurdistan, there are cafes, tea houses, I mean many places in where
There's Costa, there's Barista. I think what you're saying isn't true at all. I mean, we've got like so many malls where lots of young girls go. I go there, my friends go there. I mean, if you're going to say something, at least make it realistic.
So, Ruwaida, we've just lost Kawa, so we'll get him back online, and
Okay.
Hibiana actually kind of rebut that. But I also want to talk to Kauya, because you've got a very personal perspective on this issue. And can you share that with us?
Hello. Just to tell you about my aunt's story, she buried herself because she was forced to marry a man who was older than her, about 37 years. The man was my mother's father, because when my dad wanted to marry my mom, her father asked my dad to give him his sister. Then my dad forced her sister to marry my grandfather, and she married her. After a while, she burned herself because she could not handle that situation. When I was in high school, my best friend burned herself because her mother didn't let her to marry her boyfriend.
So that's
So-
two close people to you who have killed themselves by setting themselves
Yeah.
on fire. So I'm asking a group
Yeah.
of people, why is this happening? Why do you think it's happening? You knew these two women very, very closely.
It seems
Yeah, you know what? Before that, I have to say that I live in a town, which is a small town, and the phenomenon is very common in the small cities and villages. The religion and tradition control the small cities and the villages. Women are not free. Women cannot choose their husband. And for example, my aunt was forced to marry a very old man. My best friend was not free to choose her future husband. So the tradition didn't like women to be free. The parents decide for their daughters, for the father.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that it's cultural traditions that are trapping women, or the women that you definitely knew. Omar, and then Dr. Perry.
Sure. Dr. Perry, we have a comment from somebody else online, a video comment, who actually knows somebody who had set themselves on fire. Take a listen to this.
Hi, my name is Amin Mahmoud. I am a Kurdish woman. I personally know a lady who attempted to commit suicide 4 times in her life. She had no resources and no one professional to help her in her situation. She never told anyone because of the stigma surrounding this issue. Even though it happens, it's a taboo. No one really talks about it in the community. That's why she never told anyone. She kept it to herself.
That contrast, on the one hand, she's describing situations of complete desperation, but on the other hand, where people are willing to take the step. Yet on the other hand, there's also still this consideration about the taboo, about discussing it. Can you talk a bit more about that?
I think she touched upon several important issues, which is that women are helpless, that there is no support system for them, there is no mechanism they can report domestic violence issue or a forced marriage. And in fact, women who ran away, we have encountered many times, when they report to the authorities either hand them over back to their male family members, or they put them in prison. So there are several shelters that are good. The good thing about this is that the KRG, Kurdistan Regional Government Prime Minister, has put in a lot of effort into women issues. And he is a supporter of women programs. He treats women issues as human rights.
So, Dr. Perry, how successful is that being? We're having
Well,
these conversations,
here's the
I'm
issue.
saying it's not working.
Well, here's the issue. The issue is that the young lady mentioned stigma and mentioned the taboo. The problem is nobody is reporting it as such. If a woman dies by self-immolation, the family is afraid to talk about it because they feel that there is a community. The laws that the Kurdistan Regional Government's parliament has passed has not been implemented correctly yet.
Right.
It's a new law. We have to give it some due process. The local authorities need to be trained. Police stations need to be trained to be able to deal with issues dealing with women, and we need to have female police officers who are familiar with domestic violence issues, who are familiar with signs. There is also another issue. Mental health is not very active in Kurdistan or in Iraq.
What do you mean by that?
Mental health. If a woman has, and it's obviously a psychological issue to be so desperate to kill oneself. So if there were mental health facilities that specialized in treating depression and treating suicidal tendencies in women, you would have less of a chance of having this incident happen.
Let me just get Kawa. Kawa, you just came back into the program in time for Ruwaida to give you a tongue lashing. So Ruwaida, what was the point that you disagreed with Kawa about so that he can actually rebut it?
I think there's a huge problem on this show right now. It's like we're depicting Kurdistan as though we're still in the 90s. Kurdistan has shopping malls. We've progressed on so many levels. So just to address what he said about how young women don't have places to go, we have shopping malls, there are coffee shops, there are lots of places where we can hang out and have a good time or just go out with our friends. So in regards to what goes on in the traditional bazaars where you have tea shops, I go to those tea shops.
Okay, Ruwaida, pause a minute because Kawa's going to come back and then Dr. Perry is also nodding her head, but not in a good way. Kawa.
Okay. Yes. Well, I'm not saying the society hasn't changed. It definitely has changed. I mean, economically, the KRG adopting neoliberal policies in the aftermath of invasion of Iraq in 2003 led only, I mean, as the way I see it, to an economic sort of liberalization that did not translate into a social one. So, yeah,
exactly.
The society in some way became able to fund its own conservatism and really get rid of it or progress with the economic changes and developments that are happening in the region.
Okay, and
that's one.
Okay.
Can I just back up Kawa here?
Yep.
I'm just going to jump in.
This is Tara. Go ahead.
So for those people who don't understand the society in Kurdistan at the moment, since the first Gulf War in 1991, Kurdistan has gone through a massive, rapid social change, and the society in Kurdistan comes from originally like a feudal agriculture in origin, and it's gone through this rapid social transition. The rapid transition has allowed Kurdistan to go from being such an authoritarian system into a more open and democratic society. So therefore, it's allowed for more open mixing of female and male social groups with increasing availability of TV, satellites, internet, etc. However, with all these changes happening so rapidly, the change in mentality and parental attitude is still very much the same.
Okay.
And that's where the problem comes in. And everybody here is talking about how, the law, there's not enough, law doing it, the government hasn't got enough mental health issues in place, but we really need to speak about the preventative measures that we can take to stop it from happening in the first place, rather than what we should do once it has happened. And that's where health promotion and education and sex education comes into all of this.
And
so
Tara,
really
is that realistic? Is that realistic to actually say all those sorts of things which make incredible sense, but is that actually realistic to be implemented?
It can be. There are so many NGOs that are currently working in Kurdistan with women health issues and things like that are really trying to bring health promotion into working with society in Kurdistan, with women, men, children of all ages.
Right.
And we really need to embed it more through the government into our educational systems and our health systems so that it's completely embedded within our society and it's everywhere we look.
Okay, Omar.
Dr. Perry, we have a couple of comments here. You raised the issue of mental health. And Ramzia here online, if you take a look at my screen, says, let's remember that these women not only don't have people to turn to talk to, but there's also no institutions available. To which Barry responded by saying, hang on a second, we'll get to you in just 1 second.
Okay.
We have Barry responding to this saying, there actually are institutions available, they just, people don't know how to find them or turn to them, and there's a back and forth about the extent of institutions that are available. What kind of support systems are there?
Well, like I said, I agree with Kawa and Tara because prevention is the best medicine, as we all know. There aren't many institutions that deal with women issues just as per se. They have excellent medical doctors, but psychiatry and psychology, nurses who practice counseling or a women's mental health center, those are lacking. And also because women don't have anybody to talk to, they can't go to their mothers because most of, as it was mentioned before, culture, religion, and stigma are preventing these women from breaking away from these traditions and breaking away from being told what to do rather than having their own opinion, having their own freedom.
That's
and
not true.
That is really affecting them.
Okay, who said that's not true?
That's me, actually.
Okay,
women do have people to talk to. We have friends. We go out. We do things. Kurdistan isn't this place that many of you are describing. For one, we do have a mental health institution. It's not the best. It's lacking in many ways, but we have it there. And also, there's a women empowerment organization that tries to help police officers on how to deal with cases of honor. They have set up a helpline, but what they lack is governmental funding. What they lack is more support from the government, because what they're doing right now is fantastic. They go into villages to talk to women and try to help them if they're in danger. They give out pamphlets with helpline numbers. There are 3 phones that are run 24/7, and there are women who on a daily basis check their mobile phones to make sure that if there is a message from a woman saying, I need help, that woman is help. That's 1. 2, can we please actually not depict Kurdistan as this archaic, out-of-date place where women are stuck in their houses, where they have nothing to do? That is not true. We have moved on from the 90s. We're in 2013. Yes, we have problems in our society, but that is changing.
Then why isn't this problem being addressed?
Women where they burn themselves doesn't suffice.
Well, if it's so rosy, why isn't the problem solved? Why are these women killing themselves?
Because they have problems.
Well,
because
then
they need
if
help.
there is
Nobody's
everything
saying,
available, how come they're not
women
accessing
killing
it?
themselves only happens in Kurdistan? You really think throughout Middle East we're the only region with a problem?
This is not about defending Kurdistan and the Kurdish issue. This is a problem that we have to
you're
address.
You're describing it as this out-of-date place, and it's not true.
Yes.
All right. So we have Ruwaida.
You can't be in a defensive mood. It's a problem that we have to address.
No, don't tell me I'm being moody. But I'm just saying, can you name me the number of women in the past year that have killed themselves? Can you even give me a statistical number?
All right, Ruwaida, take a pause. I need to bring somebody else in the conversation. Go ahead.
I can give you statistics if you like.
Tara, go ahead.
Yeah.
This is a health issue, not a patriotic society issue. We all love Kurdistan and we want this issue to
I'm
be
not saying
solved.
nobody loves Kurdistan. I'm just saying you guys are both outside of Kurdistan.
Ruwaida,
let's describe it in a way that it isn't.
All right.
Coming from a health professional, okay, the perspective on our side is that
self-immolation has nothing to do with health. It's a social issue. It's not about whether the people are keeping healthy or not. So what I asked for is statistics. So if you don't have it, then from a health perspective, I don't see how
a research study conducted in South Kurdistan showed that from 2001 to 2006, suicides increased by 60%. There's a problem there. Okay.
What was the number? What's the actual number? Because 60%
in men,
could be
women, children,
10
and all
committing suicide to 80 people.
There was about in Holer alone, there was about just over 3,000 people who committed suicide between 2001 to 2006. Okay.
So Tara, this is Femi to Adelaide and Tara, and this is also Femi to Northern Iraq and Ruwaida, and also to Kawa and Dr. Perry. Everybody has more to say on this subject. Thank goodness we have a post show at stream.aljazeera.com. You hear the debate that's going on. You may not be hearing what do you do next with such an incredibly big problem. That is what we're going to be doing at stream.aljazeera.com. Also checking with Omar on what the community is saying. I just have enough time to tell you about Monday's program, Breaking the Bank to Give Birth. The joys of becoming a parent in the US are now regularly overshadowed by the rising costs of having a baby. For a natural birth, you better have about $30,000 standing by, and a cesarean, well, that comes in at around $50,000. Wow, are American parents being ripped off? What a question. We will be tackling that on the next AJ stream. But right now, you know where we'll find us, stream.aljazeera.com. See you online. Thanks for watching. Hello again, this is the Streams Online Post Show. I'm Femi OK, and we're talking about women who have been setting themselves on fire in the Kurdish region of northern Iraq. To help us understand this more, on set we have Dr. Peri Kaladari. She's the Executive Director of the Kurdish Human Rights Watch. On Skype, Ruwaida Mustafa Rabar, a feminist youth activist and blogger. In a Google Plus Hangout, Tara Fatehi is a Kurdish researcher. Kawa Morad lives in the region and does research for the Centre for Kurdish Studies at the University of Exeter. And Kauya Omer is a student at the American University of Iraq in Soleimani and knows many women who are self-immolated. So we have an amazing group of minds all tackling the same issue. Kauya, I know that you were trying to get into the conversation. We were hurtling towards the end of the main show. Let's start with you. What did you want to add to the conversation? What are we not addressing?
Something where I said that, like, it's true we have hundreds of the women organizations in every city, in every town, but the question is that are they active? I can say no. They just come, they just run a house, they have an office, they come to their office in the morning and just go back in the evening. They don't do anything. Like, they cannot prevent anything. When it happens, they try to do something to take them out for trial or do something like that. I just want to ask I don't know her name, but the doctor, could you tell me an example of that you like save a daughter of a woman from killing herself or something like that? Do you solve any problem for her? No. None of the women organizations can do something like that. They just like the account, the number of the murders, the number of the women that killed themselves. They cannot give us a very clear statistics about it. I know a woman, she burned herself in a small village. You will never know about it because they never got her.
So there's something that I think this is really important. I know the team were really felt that we should share with our audience, is that is the survivors and what they say happened to them. I've got a couple of quotes here from women who were found, Dr. Peri, and they survived the experience. One says, "All of a sudden, I got really cold," she whispers. "So that's why I turned on the heating stove. And when I put the kerosene in the stove, I forgot to cut off the electricity. The thing exploded and I caught fire. It was an accident." And another woman says, "My nylon dress caught fire because of the uncontrollable heating stove. It all went so fast, I can't really remember it." There were so many cases of 40 stoves that you begin to think maybe this is not the real reason that they caught on fire. How do you analyze that?
Well, I think once they survive, obviously there are accidents. Accidents do happen, but those that survive probably would like to report that it was an accident because they don't want people to think that they are mentally unfit. There will be, of course, issues if they have children. There's also a segment of this suicides or so-called suicides. We found out that they were actually honor killings or domestic violence.
It's interesting because Omar, you were saying that you were getting some of those comments. Can you share them with us from our online community?
We have a couple of people who have raised that prospect on my screen here. Howry says, when it comes to suicide among Kurdish women, you can't always be sure that it's selfly done. Honor killing is common. We have another comment from Halima who says, it could be deliberate murder blamed on suicide. No one will investigate as usual.
How do you even know that though?
Well, if the police does a report or investigates the crime, most of the time the family will say that they didn't know what's going on, or if it's an abusive husband, he will say that he doesn't have any clue. Most of the time, in instances like this, it seems that there has been a conflict. We noticed in our research that the woman was trying to file for a divorce.
Right.
She was leaving him, taking her children away, and he did not tolerate that. So there is quite a bit that has to be researched. And I think with the new family law in Kurdistan that the KRG and the Prime Minister Van Barzani has endorsed, I think we are going a step further in this, that the Kurdish government will not tolerate these acts of violence against women.
Let me just bring in Kawa, because Kawa, we lost your connection in the show and we got a little bit from you. I really wanted to hear more from you because what I'm hearing a lot is about a patriarchal society in North Iraq. From your point of view, how would you sum it up? Do you feel that's contributing to self-immolations?
I mean, I wouldn't want to describe the KRG as a patriarchal. The whole Middle East, it's a masculine society, and that also exists here as well. I mean, to various degrees, but yes, there's. I think it is a masculine society. I think men get to decide most of the things on behalf of women.
So let me bring in Ruwaida here. Ruwaida, you are self-confessed feminist and from North Iraq as well. So this is tough. This is a tough combination for you. So I hear your passion. You tried to set up a campaign to help women so that they didn't have to make that last desperate protest and kill themselves, and you failed.
Yes,
So-
I did.
so-
Actually, I've
so-
done so many
so what do you
campaigns
do?
and they've failed one after the other. And I think one of the problems we face as young people in Kurdistan is that we don't know which governmental institution to go to and how they can assist us and whether we will receive any funding for our activities. And that's one of the main problems. If you're a young girl or young woman or young man in Kurdistan and you want to implement change, it's very hard to do it on a political level because we have huge problems on a political level, and also on a social level people are very pessimistic that young people can be a drive for change. However, all that aside, lots of young people are making changes. There's a girl I will give an example of. Her name is Ashna Sharif. She works with women. She not long ago she was training young women on how to use social media to talk about their lives, to talk about their problems. So all in all, yes, we have huge problems in Kurdistan when it comes to women's rights. Yes, we are facing women who are self-immolating, but the degree to which they're doing that, we still don't know. I know Tara gave statistics, but those statistics are only up to 2006, unless she has more statistics. What I believe in is for the government to not just say, we endorse this, we endorse that, but to actually make their words a reality. We need more action and less sort of fancy paperwork on the government's behalf. And also on a social level, I started a feminist society, but we only had like 4 members. So I think on a social level, if young people really get together and say, you know what, we can make these changes and actually do stuff. And also, my last point, sorry, I keep talking so much.
Yeah, you're going to stop in like 20 seconds, Ruwaida, because we're going to pull the plug out of your Skype. Go for it, last point, and it will be the last point, so make it good.
Okay. Last point is we have several helplines that help women. Those helplines are set up so that women, if they're in need, if their husband's been abusive, if parents are saying to a young woman, you need to do this and that and we won't let you out,
right,
then there is a helpline that helps them. But those helplines need more funding so they can be publicized on billboards, on TV, on radio. So what they need, funding all the way.
Okay. Thank you, Ruwaida. And Omar, the last word should go to the community.
A last comment we have here from Nets Blockier on Twitter, who kind of connects it all to the broader context and says, self-immolations are the highest sigh of desperation, no matter if in Tunisia, Tibet, or Kurdistan. Just kind of taking a broader look at this issue.
Wow. So from all of our guests, we have got guests in DC, we have them in northern Iraq, and also in Turkey, in Adelaide. We cross the world to bring you this conversation. Thank you all very much for helping us understand this situation a little bit better. Now, what are we going to be doing on the next program? Well, on Monday, breaking the bank to give birth. The joys of becoming a parent in the United States are now being overshadowed by the rising costs of having a baby. Listen to this. For a natural birth, you better have around about $30,000. And for a cesarean, well, that comes in at around $50,000. So are American parents being ripped off? That question in our next show. Until then, you know where we'll be. We will be online. Stream.aljazeera.com. Thanks for watching. Take care.